The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule. Good morning. We begin with breaking news of an officer-involved shooting in Shafter. The suspect taken to the hospital. We'll take you live to the scene and tell you what we know so far.
A crisis in the city. Bakersfield looks at the homelessness issue as leaders look to tackle the ongoing problem. What Bakersfield's report card looks like so far.
The battle continues in Lake Tahoe as the Calder fire rages on. Hundreds of homes and businesses have burned. Tens of thousands still threatened. How President Biden is responding on this Thursday, September 2nd, 2021.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning here at 5 a.m. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher, and we did finally get a little bit of that cool down yesterday and especially overnight. All right, thanks so much, Kevin. We're going to take you live now to Shafter and begin with the breaking news of that officer-involved shooting. According to Shafter Police Chief Kevin Zimmerman, officers responded to a traffic accident around 1:15 this morning on Minter Avenue near Walnut Street. Zimmerman says officers confronted a driver there, and that's when the shooting happened. Police say the suspect was taken to the hospital, but they haven't released any other details at this time, so we don't know the condition of that person, whether or not there were shots fired from the suspect as well. We'll continue to follow this story. As you can see, it's still a very active scene out there this morning in Shafter, so we'll work to get some more information from those officers on scene and bring that to you as soon as we learn more.
5:03 now, and now to Bakersfield's homelessness crisis. Last night, City Council members talked about the city's successes, failures, and ongoing challenges in dealing with the issue. 17's Robert Price has been following this long-running conversation and files this report.
A few weeks ago, Bakersfield City Councilman Andre Gonzalez asked city staff to look at Bakersfield's existing homeless ordinances and compare them to a new anti-camping ordinance that went into effect this week in the city of Los Angeles, which has an estimated 41,000 unsheltered people. At Wednesday night's meeting, city staff, as well as others in the community tasked with managing the homeless issue, presented their findings, not just about the LA ordinance, but a complete report card of Bakersfield's progress. Much of the news was good. Just a few years ago, Bakersfield was trying to address local homelessness with a few $100,000 in federal pass-through funding. Now the city is spending from its own money $11 million a year in general fund Measure N dollars and seeing progress with rental assistance, a rapid rehousing program, and the addition of 400 new emergency shelter beds over the past 3 years. But where the city's homeless services, some of which are managed by Mercy House, have experienced failure, two recurring issues are turning up. This is Theo Dews of Mercy House.
This is the one blemish on our operations thus far, is that we've had so many self-exits. I suspect, based on my decades of experience in this profession, that the number one reason we have so many self-exits is impulsive and irrational decisions that are made based on mental illness or chemical addiction.
But as Homeless Collaborative Director Anna Levin said, the city has made incredible strides finding innovative, permanent housing solutions. Anthony Valdez, assistant to the city manager, said the city was looking at a possible fall expansion of the Brundage Lane Navigation Center, and the city may bring in some all-terrain vehicles to better police the riverbanks of the dry Kern River, where scores of people occupy illegal makeshift shelters. But does the city need additional ordinances based on strategies outlined in the new LA ordinance? Deputy City Attorney Joshua Rudnick said the staff's comparison to the two cities' approach suggests no.
So when it comes down to it, when you look at the LA ordinance and you look what we have on the books already, you know, the policies and provisions that we have and what the LA ordinance has, it doesn't provide any new enforcement tools.
The generally good news about Bakersfield's progress in addressing homelessness was tempered by Councilman Gonzalez's conclusion.
I mean, it's very clear, we are doing a lot, but it's also clear to folks throughout our community that the problem still persists, and that there are issues in every single neighborhood throughout the city.
Bakersfield clearly still has a way to go in housing its unsheltered population. In Bakersfield, Robert Price, 17 News.
The Bakersfield City Council last night approved a resolution to build a memorial honoring Kern County's World War II veterans and those who served in other roles during the war. The resolution was proposed by the Kern County World War II Veterans Memorial nonprofit organization. The new memorial will be built at Jastro Park on Truxton Avenue. The nonprofit says it will cover all expenses of designing and building the memorial.
Now to an issue we call Kern's sober reality, as the man who caused a crash that severely disabled a young woman 5 years ago learned his fate. Esteban Gutierrez was sentenced yesterday to 12 years behind bars for driving drunk and running a red light on Callaway Drive, hitting a car driven by then 23-year-old Jordan Farnsworth. He then fled the United States and was arrested 18 months later in Tijuana. Written in 2 pages, Todd Farnsworth read the impact that the 2016 crash has had on his family and his daughter, all while facing the man responsible.
Jordan's life has been changed, and we will never be the same again. By God's grace, we see small improvements every once in a while in what Jordan can do. Yet the bottom line, truth of truth, says Jordan requires 24-hour daycare to do everything.
Gutierrez apologized but still maintained his innocence, claiming he was not the one behind the wheel when the crash happened. Kern County District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer said she hopes the ruling will prevent others from getting behind the wheel while intoxicated, adding this type of heinous act never needed to happen. And just a reminder, the California Highway Patrol is cracking down on intoxicated drivers this Labor Day weekend. CHP says it is initiating a maximum enforcement period tomorrow at 6 p.m. through Monday, Labor Day. Officials say anyone who suspects an intoxicated driver is on the roadway, they should call 911.
5:08 your time now. An update to the French fire burning in the Kern River Valley. The fire is still 43% contained and continues to grow slowly, now at nearly 26,000 acres. The French fire is believed to have been human caused and started in the mountains west of Lake Isabella on August 18th.
And here's a look at the latest evacuation map. The bright red is the fire itself, and the lighter shade reflects the areas under evacuation orders. There are currently no evacuation warnings, which would be listed in yellow on this map. The Red Cross shelter located at Woodrow Wallace Elementary School transitioned to standby status yesterday, since everyone who was there has been able to return home, which is definitely some good news. That map looks a lot better from just a couple days ago. And a reminder, you can see all of our coverage of the French fire, including up-to-the-minute updates on evacuation orders and how to donate to the Red Cross as it provides food, shelter, and security to those impacted by the fire. Just head to our website, kget.com.
And this morning, the Calder fire continues to threaten the resort city of Lake Tahoe. Tens of thousands of people have been forced to flee their homes, hoping that they'll have one to come back to. Lake Tahoe, a summer paradise known for its turquoise waters, is now shrouded in smoke and flames. Hundreds of structures have been destroyed. More than 30,000 others are now under threat, with more than 50,000 residents under mandatory evacuation. Ahead of a typically busy Labor Day weekend, residents and visitors instead are fleeing.
I'm wondering if I'm going to have a home to come, back to.
Yeah. Just lots of family and years of memories, and it's absolutely devastating.
The fire has burned over 200,000 acres. It's just 23% contained this morning. Last night, President Biden approved a presidential emergency declaration for counties affected by the Calder fire. The approval came just hours after Governor Newsom submitted the request.
In your 17 Crime Watch, a man has been arrested in connection with an assault last month at Casey's Steakhouse in Bakersfield that left radio talk show host Ralph Bailey with a broken jaw. Bakersfield police say 35-year-old Alexander Vera was arrested for the assault. He is charged with battery, causing serious bodily injury, and is due in court next week. Bailey, a host on Kern Radio, has since returned to the airwaves.
Recapping our top stories, last night city staff presented a complete report card of Bakersfield's progress on homelessness. Officials say the city's looking at a possible fall expansion of the Brundage Lane Navigation Center, and the city may bring in some all-terrain vehicles to better police the riverbanks of the dry Kern River, where scores of people occupy illegal makeshift shelters. The Bakersfield City Council last night approved a resolution to build a memorial honoring Kern County's World War II veterans and those who served in other roles during the war. The resolution was proposed by the Kern County World War II Veterans Memorial nonprofit organization. It's set to be built at Jastro Park on Truxton Avenue. Esteban Gutierrez was sentenced yesterday to 12 years behind bars for driving drunk and running a red light on Callaway Drive. hitting a car driven by then 23-year-old Jordan Farnsworth. Gutierrez apologized, but still maintained his innocence, claiming he wasn't the one behind the wheel when the crash happened.
Now to that breaking news out of Shafter, where an officer-involved shooting happened earlier this morning. According to Shafter Police Chief Kevin Zimmerman, officers responded to a traffic accident around 1:15 this morning on Minter Avenue near Walnut Street. Zimmerman says officers confronted the driver, and that's when the shooting happened. Police say the suspect was transported to the hospital, but they have not released any other details at this time. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you more updates as soon as we learn more.
17 News is your local election headquarters. We are less than 2 weeks away from Election Day in California. The front-runner to replace Governor Gavin Newsom held his first press conference yesterday since other candidates condemned some of his past comments. 17's Ashley Zavala reports from Sacramento.
The reason I'm running has nothing to do with Roe v. Wade, has nothing to do with my stance on drugs.
Radio talk show host Larry Elder Wednesday holding his first press teleconference since comments from his past have surfaced, including those on women in the workplace and his belief that federal and state governments should stop enforcing recreational drug laws. Elder doubled down on his stance on drugs, saying they should be treated as a public health issue and not a criminal justice issue. He also fielded questions on a brand new abortion ban in Texas. The conservative acknowledged there's zero chance of turning blue California into a pro-life state and said a similar ban is nowhere near his priority list.
I want to do something about the rise in homelessness. I want to do something about the outrageous cost of living in California, about the home prices, about our water shortage, about the rolling brownouts that we're having, and about the poor forest management.
Elder is one of more than 40 candidates on the campaign trail working to convince Californians to remove Governor Gavin Newsom from office. The latest polls continue to show that while most Californians don't know who to pick to replace Newsom, Elder is still the most preferred. Meanwhile, some have already made up their mind and submitted their votes. Political Data Inc.'s ballot tracker showed Wednesday 21% of ballots have been returned, with white voters and registered Democrats outpacing other groups. Governor Newsom continues to urge his supporters to leave the candidate replacement section on the ballot blank.
We're just winding up this last 2 weeks, so we're going to bring this home.
At the state capitol, Ashley Zavala, 17 News.
17 News confirmed Larry Elder is set to make his second visit to Bakersfield today. He'll be in downtown Bakersfield this afternoon, but details of when and where have not been confirmed by his campaign. Meantime, Governor Newsom's campaign confirms U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren is set to rally for the governor in Los Angeles this weekend. Details on that visit are still to come.
The Kern County Elections Office says it still needs poll workers for the upcoming recall election. Workers would staff polling places across the county on Election Day, September 14th. Poll workers are paid a stipend for serving. Local elections officials say just because this is a special election and not a general election does not mean they need fewer staff on hand to help out.
This election, because it is, well, it's statewide, it involves the entire county. We have as many poll sites as we had in November. We need as many poll workers as we needed in November.
If you want to become a poll worker, you must be a registered voter, attend a training session, and be available to work anytime on the 14th between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. The Elections Office is also looking for volunteers who are bilingual to assist voters. For more information, you can visit kernvote.com.
And now to the latest on the coronavirus in Kern, and another sign the pandemic isn't easing up. Public Health announced 8 new deaths yesterday and nearly 700 new cases. By our count, at least 104 people have died since vaccines became available to everyone 12 and up. Public Health lists diabetes and hypertension as the leading comorbidities or pre-existing conditions, but the database has not been updated in over 4 months. 142 people have died in Kern County from COVID-19 during that time period.
Health experts say a growing number of children are catching COVID-19 and that has some local parents scared to send their children back to school.
I've left numerous messages with student services at BCSD, and I haven't heard back because I want my son to be at home and virtual.
In February, I lost my sister due to COVID, and so I feel more safe him being home. I mean, honestly, I can say that I'm happy that he is home.
While health experts say kids are less likely to become seriously ill with COVID-19, they can still spread it to adults. Each district has its own set of rules for when a child is infected with COVID-19. None of Bakersfield's largest school districts have released numbers on how many of their students have tested positive for the virus. The Kern High School District says it notifies the Public Health Department whenever one of its students is infected.
The annual Kern County College Night has been moved to a virtual event due to the increase in COVID-19 cases. The event's hosted by Kern County Superintendent of Schools Office in conjunction with Kern High School District, and it will take place September 13th from 4 to 7 p.m. A live and pre-recorded information session in English and Spanish will be available on a variety of topics, and all sessions will be recorded and archived for later viewing for those who are unable to view that night.
Now to your 17 homicide tracker, and a man was shot and killed in East Bakersfield Tuesday night, with the shooter or shooters still on the loose this morning. The Kern County Sheriff's Office says deputies responded to the shooting just after 11:30 p.m. on Hill Street. That's just east of Sierra Middle School. KCSO says they found a man dead in a parking lot. He had several gunshot wounds. If you have any information on this case, you're asked to call KCSO at 861-3110 or Secret Witness at 322-4040.
The family of a man who was stabbed to death in a park last month is holding a candlelight vigil in his memory this week. The man, identified by family members as 25-year-old Michael Barrett, was found dead at DeGiorgio Park around 7 a.m. on August 20th. Friday at 7 p.m., a vigil is being held at that same park. Barrett leaves behind a 6-year-old daughter. The family is also holding a car wash fundraiser September 11th at Red Dog Thrift Store on China Grade Loop. A GoFundMe has also been set up. If you'd like to donate, we have a link at kget.com.
2 men from Delano were killed in a crash near Porterville early yesterday morning. According to CHP, officers received a call about a crash just before 7 a.m. on Road 192 just north of Avenue 104. That's southwest of Porterville. CHP says a 25-year-old man and a 78-year-old man were from Delano and were traveling northbound when their car drifted into the southbound lanes and crashed head-on with another truck. Both men were killed in the crash. The investigation is ongoing.
A man has been sentenced to 12 years in prison for stabbing and killing another man near a medical marijuana dispensary in East Bakersfield. Miguel Bravo was sentenced yesterday in the death of 28-year-old Tanner Allen Blankenship, according to court records. Blankenship was stabbed back on July 20th, 2020, near the Backyard Organics medical marijuana dispensary on River Boulevard. He was taken to Kern Medical, where he died. Deputies arrested Bravo in September of last year. A charge of first-degree murder was dismissed in a plea agreement.
Your help is needed to provide daily care for shelter pets. Kern County Animal Services says they need volunteers to help with basic animal care for shelter pets on a daily basis, as needs have grown quickly. Even though their volunteer program ended abruptly at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, small numbers of volunteers have been assisting with tasks on a limited basis. Animal Services is specifically looking for volunteers for dog and cat care. Animal lovers interested in volunteering can submit an application to volunteer through the department's website.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.